Welcome to the Empress Lioness, a sacred space where the spirit roars and the soul remembers everything. In each episode, we sit with visionaries, founders, creators, and healers. I'm your host, Karen Mitchell. Some women don't arrive loudly. They arrive clear. They've lived enough life to know that truth doesn't rush. It waits until the woman is ready to carry it. In today's conversation, it's for the woman who has outgrown survival, but is still learning how to rest inside her power. Welcome back to the Empress Lioness podcast, the sanctuary where women rise from lived experience into embodied sovereignty. I'm your host, Karen Mitchell, the Empress Lioness. And today I'm joined by Miss Kelly Reese. Kelly is a woman shaped by experience, reflection, and inner work. She brings presence, insight, and a grounded way of seeing the world, the kind that only comes from walking through life with both awareness and responsibility. This is not a surface conversation. This is a listening conversation. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was quite an intro. Thanks.
You're welcome. But Kelly, before we talk about who you are today, I want to take our listeners back. It's important for our listeners to know who you were before life asks you to become stronger than you expected.
Hey. uh, I I would say that at the time I thought I was being strong, and that I could do anything, and I said yes, like that was true. But in reality, what was happening was I kept ignoring what my heart was really calling me toward and what my soul was calling me toward, and I kept saying yes to the thing that was right in my mind. My mind kept saying, "You've worked so hard to get to this position. You spent 17 years in this career. Why would you walk away?" Like all of the logical things that surrounded the work that I did actually kept me stuck and kept me eventually ended up harming my health. That's
Cool.
my health is the final straw that I said, okay, wait a second. I work in natural foods. I've done this for almost 20 years because I had a restaurant and then I started a career in the natural foods industry. And I did that because it supported my eating habit. And then at the end, ironically, it's the thing that I actually said, wait, I've done this for so many years because of my health and the job is going to now take my health. Like that didn't compute for me. So I would say that I was somebody who was really pushing myself really hard for 20 years and it ended up making me sick. And then that's the thing that actually woke me up. It just like immediately popped me out of what felt like a dream state, but I didn't realize how tired I was and how hard I'd pushed myself. I didn't understand the toll it was taking on me because I was like an Energizer bunny. I could just keep going and going and going. And I finally had to listen to my body over what my mind was saying.
Like so many other women out there, we push
Hmm.
ourselves to the point we don't even realize that we're overdoing it.
Yes.
But what did that season teach you about yourself, not just about your life?
One of the things that it taught me is that being good at things didn't mean that I should say yes all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because I could do it doesn't mean that I should.
Yeah.
And that I really needed to not check in with my brain only as far as like what was aligned for me, but that I really needed to ask my heart because my heart didn't get to have a lot of input. It thought I was because I kept thinking, oh, I'm going to get to the top of this career. And then I got to the top of the career and I was kind of like, something's kind of missing. This doesn't always feel great. Or, I would say, I think I said this 20 times. We just need to get past this hurdle and then it'll be okay. And that wasn't a sign for me that something was wrong, right? It was like, I just kept thinking, oh, we'll get past this one. And then there was another one. It was like, okay, well, we just have to get past this one. So it's a combo platter of checking with my heart first, not just disregarding it, but checking with my heart
Right.
first. Also letting my mind have some input, of course. I love a good spreadsheet and a great pros and cons list. I'm super strategic. And my heart needed to have some say in a lot of the decision making process. which I wasn't allowing.
That is usually the moment, Kelly. It's normally the quiet one where something inside us says, I can't live like this anymore.
Yeah.
But in all of that, what truth did you have to admit to yourself before anything changed?
I had to admit that I was tired.
Yeah,
It wasn't just, I need to sleep for a couple of days. It was like 2 years of healing to, like, heal from the 20 years of pushing, maybe 4 years, if I'm being honest, but it was 2, like, very in-depth years of me really going deep and figuring out, like, where did I lose myself? What happened here, right? But it took it took between 2 and 4 years to really heal from 20 years of pushing myself as hard as I did. 'Cause I would
wow.
be exhausted, and then it'd be months before I would say, "I'm tired, maybe I should use some of my vacation time," which
Yeah.
I hardly ever did, and then when I was on vacation, I was never off, I was on all the time. So, it was just I had to admit to myself how tired I truly was, and that powering through for me wasn't working anymore.
It's that identity that you had to release, that going, being the leader, the CEO. Even though those things once protected you, now they're harming you. But what does
Yep.
sovereignty look like in your life right now?
I don't power through anymore, so that's freeing. If I can't feel myself in something, then I slow it down, I pause, right? And that's usually the correction is just that pausing for me to be able to say, "What's going on here?" I've become very attuned to how I feel in something rather than what
Yeah,
I tell myself I should be feeling.
yeah,
"This should feel great. I'm in this thing that I wanted," or whatever. So that slowing down piece, and just being able to attune to what is right for me and being honest about it. I think that's the hardest part sometimes is if we've worked so hard to get someplace and then it doesn't feel like we think it should, that's a tell. That's
yeah.
information, right? It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just might mean a little thing needs tweaking, not the whole thing needs to be blown up,
Right,
right? And I
right.
did blow up my life, so I
Yeah,
understand, like, what it is to leave the marriage, leave the six-figure career, walk away from your country, move and, like, figure out what's going on, right? I did blow up my life for a very specific reason, and so I don't I don't think you have to do that now. I
yeah,
had to
yeah,
at that time, but I don't think you have to do that now, and so now it's just about fine-tuning and tweaking things here and there where and being honest and vocal about the things too. Like if something isn't okay and there's another person involved, I have to have those conversations. Otherwise, I will feel off
yeah.
the entire time and I can get no clarity about what's going on.
Oh, wow. So I know many women lead outwardly before they ever feel safe inwardly. What
Uh-huh.
inner work changed how you showed up in the world?
Whew. uh, I feel like I have been on this path of what I call self mastery, doing inner work since my 20s. I'm 57 now. So there's a lot of things that have gone into that. But I think the most important pieces that I've come to understand is it's really important to have my own back to say what needs to be said, even if it's uncomfortable or scary,
Yeah,
to honor how I'm truly feeling and then say like, "Okay, this is how I'm feeling," and not rush to try to fix it, right?
right.
I'm not a project that needs fixing, although for a number of years I felt like I was, right? So I was like, I'm just gonna throw all the things at how I'm feeling and try to understand what's going on. And a lot of what really worked for me was not pushing, obviously, as I did in my work, but not even pushing myself as far as like I need to understand this right now. I'm pretty like goal oriented. Oh, something's off. I got to fix it.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
okay now to lean back and to wait. Like what I tell myself and a lot of my clients is, "Hey, we don't have enough information yet. This isn't a moment to act or to like try to figure stuff out as much as we want to do that when we have really strategic minds." So
yeah.
sometimes the most strategic thing I can do is go, "Okay, I'm going to wait for more information." And that used to be super uncomfortable for me. And now it's just like, "Okay, there's nothing I have to do right now," which is pretty freeing.
Accept the
Honestly,
wait. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Waiting is an action, right? But it doesn't feel
Yeah,
like that because it feels uncomfortable to not be doing something, at least for me
yeah.
and for a lot of strategic
For a lot of
women.
yeah, you're absolutely right because we're so used to always going. If we have to wait, it feels like everything's gonna fall apart. We're no longer in
Yes.
control. We can't let go. We gotta,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
I'm not
that's
doing
something I need
anything.
to learn.
What's happening?
Yeah, yeah,
Waiting is doing something though, right?
that's right. It really
Yeah.
is. But how do you care for yourself now emotionally?
I would say emotionally, I listen to how I'm feeling. And
Yeah,
if I'm upset, I have to actually sit with myself first before I can like take that to whatever I'm upset about it, whether it's a person, a system, whatever. Right. So listening to myself first, sometimes it's amazing. I look back and think, oh my God, how many times did I just react to how I was feeling, to my emotions, right? Without just sitting with it and understanding it. Cause sometimes I don't even have to say anything. It's just a matter of me allowing myself to feel the emotions and process them through my body, taking the time to do that. And it
yeah.
passes. And I'm like, wow, okay, I don't even need to say anything right here. Or I do, but I say it with a lot more compassion than I would have if I had just reacted right in that moment.
We never have compassion for ourselves, right? We're so
Rarely.
hard on ourselves. That's something
Yeah.
we all have to learn. But Kelly, when did you realize that your story wasn't just personal, but purposeful?
There was a very clear moment where I was in at an event in New York City, and it was like a marketing event, and I had finished my first book, and it was like a training, and I was in a room with a bunch of people where I didn't feel good enough, and I stood up to introduce myself and kind of like stumbled through that introduction, and the person who was holding the mic, he knew my story, and he asked me a question that got me to say, he's like, well, what did you do before this? And I said, well, I was running a $34 million organization, and every head went like this. And I thought, what? I had
You did
no
that,
idea.
girl.
To me, to me, I was thinking, wow, apparently this means something, right?
Yeah,
At least 7 women came up to me after that and said, "I don't think you understand the impact of, like, walking away from something that large, but not only walking away from that, but running something like that." Like, not a lot of women get to that level, and I was thinking, "Wow, I never felt like that in the industry I was in," because I saw other females in that CEO role at bigger organizations than I was. So, it never occurred to me, like, that meant something. And then I started understanding like how big it was and that the other side of that, running that organization, walking away to do the thing that my heart was calling me to do was equally as big. And so when I started just owning my story is when I realized that my story had some meaning and that I was, that I was here to help people with my story because a lot of women are sitting in the exact place that I was 10 years ago, you know? And it's no different. They're pushing themselves and going, "Huh, something's missing. I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but I worked really hard for this. I should probably stick around and
yeah.
maybe not," you know?
Yeah. We always seem to downplay our achievements. I'm guilty of that as well. It's not until sometimes when you step back and someone else has to say, "Hey, girl, you did that thing. You should be proud. Like,
Mhm.
look at how far you came from." We never look back. We just keep going and steady being
Yeah.
busy and multitaskers. We never look back at the
Yeah, you're so
progress
right.
we've made. So,
Yeah,
but how
that
do
is
you
so
feel?
true.
Yeah, I just had an epiphany. So I'm learning it as well as I go. I built a company myself and I look back now and I think, oh my God, I really did that. I'm really proud of myself. But who do you feel most called to impact or to serve in this season?
The people that I serve are really strategic women. I do work with some men, mostly gay men, but there's a 90% of my clientele are women. And I say, do soul work for strategic people. And that is
Yeah,
because we've gotten so disconnected. Women have gotten so disconnected from from themselves, right? That heart piece, what matters to them, because it almost feels like we're in a fight, for recognition, validation, all these things.
Yes.
And that fight is the draining part, right? Not feeling like you can be yourself, not feeling like you have to validate everything, ideas you come up with. It's not easy to say, like, I have a hunch, right? No, we've got to go and, create an absolutely massive PowerPoint to, validate our hunch so that people will listen to us when our hunches are probably the exact thing that needs to happen without all the
Yeah.
validation, right? But it's hard to trust that. It's hard to trust what we already know. And
Yeah.
we know a
So
lot.
we do, especially as women, we downplay it a lot. But tell our listeners how it is that you can help them if they are in this exact same place you were 20 or 10 years ago.
Mm. So what I help people do is listen to what they really need to be doing. And sometimes that isn't blowing up your life, that isn't leaving the job. I have plenty of clients who actually stay, but they learn how to be in their role as themselves rather than the person they think that they should be. And I think that's the most important piece. And then there are plenty of people, especially if they're in a toxic environment, that absolutely need to get out. And then I help them discover, understand, look at the thing they really want to be doing. It might be applying for another job with a company and it might be building their own thing. I've had people leave
Yeah, living in their purpose.
with what they're meant to be doing.
Yes.
Things just unfold and happen. And obviously, it's not the only thing they end up doing. They end up like working with people from their previous organization, and things just start to unroll and happen. And so there's a lot of pieces. Like, I feel like if we just get the first piece, can start that happening. But a lot of times we're trying to look at the end piece. How am I going to replace this multi 6 figure income? And it's like, we just need to like come back to where we are right now, what needs to happen, and what is the first step I can take, which simplifies everything, but feels way scary because you're like, whoa, wait, I don't have a plan here. This is not okay.
Yeah.
So I help to simplify things for sure and to really get clear on what they want. And sometimes that's through lots of different tools that I have in my toolbox.
Okay.
There's beliefs, there's patterns, there's childhood wounding that go into so
Okay.
that people.
Awesome. Kelly, let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you and inquire about your services. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kelly, for your honesty, for your presence, and your truth. And to every woman listening to this, oh, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. It was such a great honor to share this space with you, Kelly. It really was.
Thank
And
you.
for every woman listening today, you are not late. You are not broken. You are becoming. If today's conversation touched your spirit, share it with another woman who is also rising. And until next time, walk in your truth, lead with your heart, and rise like the Empress you know you are meant to be. This is the Empress Lioness Podcast. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Karen Mitchell.